Hello and thank you for joining us on the news on NTA International, coming to you live from Abuja. I am Ruth Aguele. Let's take the headlines. Federal government promises to return numerous job opportunities exported to other countries, just as it reiterates commitment to implement approved new minimum wage. Senate confirms appointment of Justice Ibrahim Mohammed Tanko as Chief Justice of Nigeria. And Presidential Election Petition Court summons Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission to produce some documents regarding conduct of February 23rd presidential election. The federal government has promised to do whatever it takes to bring back numerous job opportunities exported to other countries at the expense of Nigerians through unnecessary importation of goods and services. President Muhammadu Buhari, who stated this at an audience with the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, said Nigeria has everything required to meet the basic needs of its citizens. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the report.
With membership drawn from all sectors of the economy and all sizes of business, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association is committed, among others, promoting harmonious business environment towards engendering not only productivity but prosperity for all. This visit by a delegation of the association to the State House is therefore an opportunity for President Muhammadu Buhari to give an update on the policy focus of his administration towards supporting job creation and economic growth.
Nigeria is a blessed country with abundant resources. Our history of unnecessary importation of the most basic items meant we were exporting jobs to other countries at the expense of our own citizens. This administration is determined to bring these jobs back to Nigeria.
President Buhari said the private sector remains the main platform for inclusive growth and therefore promised to sustain efforts at creating the enabling environment for Nigerian businesses to flourish and grow.
This journey is a long one that requires patience, understanding, and perseverance. I would therefore encourage you to continue to engage government by providing honest and constructive feedback. Together, we can build a Nigeria that we'll all be proud of.
Acting President, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, Taiwo Adeniyi, congratulated President Buhari on his re-election and appreciated him for keeping faith with his promise of partnership with the private sector towards growing the economy and improving the well-being of Nigerians.
We recognize the landmark interventions that your administration had implemented in the past 4 years, which laid a solid foundation and building block upon which our dear country will thrive. We in the organized private sector affirm our fearless commitment to support and partner with your government in the tasks ahead, especially in implementing your economic policy initiatives aimed at unlocking our undoubted economy potentials.
While enumerating excesses and contradictions by regulatory agencies, high cost of doing business, and concerns over the likely increase in taxes as key challenges threatening business survival and competitiveness, Mr. Taiwo Adeniyi made a case for intervention by the President. Established in 1957 as Voice of Business, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association provides a forum for dialogue between the government and the private sector workers on labor and social policy issues. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And in other news, President Muhammadu Buhari has enjoined all Nigerians to ignore the recent call by the Northern Elders Forum to Fulani herders, asking them to leave the southern part of Nigeria. According to the president, all citizens of Nigeria are free to move and live within any part of the country they please, whether or not they are originally from there. In a statement by the Senior Special Assistant, Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, questioned the intentions of the Northern Elders Forum and those other leaders in delving into issues with unsolicited, ill-intentioned advice. They have no one's authority to make such pronouncements. On to legislative matters, the Senate has confirmed the appointment of Justice Ibrahim Mohammed Tanko as Chief Justice of Nigeria. The presidential request for the confirmation was read on the Senate floor on the 11th of July 2019. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Onkwo tells us the mood during the screening.
7 days after, the Chief Justice has been confirmed. And then during the screening, well, the Chief Justice was quite commended and answered some questions, especially bordering on the development of the Nigerian judiciary. Now I have here some of the senators who were present on the floor during the screening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, my dear.
Now, how did you see the screening? How will you describe the process?
Well, the whole process was very, very good. Excellent. Because the CJ performed very, very well. And senators asked cogent questions that will enhance the judiciary, that will enhance governance. Not questions that will bring roundness, not questions that are targeted at individuals or politics. No, it was professional. Professional questions were asked, and those questions were answered professionally. So the cordiality in the Senate is now exhibiting itself.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, my dear.
All right. Well, we still have Senator Tanko Umar Al-Makura. Tell us, how did you see the screening today?
Thank you very much. Like you know, this is a learning process for some of us, and I must say that the exercise and the process was wonderful. We are all impressed, especially with the resume and CV sent by the National Judicial Commission about the qualification and the competence of the new Chief Justice of Nigeria. He has been described as someone honest, hardworking, and a team player. And from the way and manner he answered the questions, you have known that he has carved his niche in the profession of his choice, and to everybody's satisfaction.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, this is one of the major oversight functions performed by the 9th Senate.
Nations and the House of Representatives has urged Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki to issue fresh proclamation within 1 week for the inauguration of Edo State Assembly in line with Section 105, Subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. This will contain date, time and venue published in any national daily and television station. National Assembly correspondent Kenneth Nanim has details on this and all the resolutions of the House at Wednesday's plenary.
At the Committee of the Whole, the House received and adopted recommendations of the report of the House Ad Hoc Committee that investigated the Edo Assembly crisis as presented by its chairman, Representative Abdulrazak Namdas.
We found out there were two important points that are key to the heart of the matter. And these important points first has to do with the leadership of the Edo State House of Assembly. All of the factions wanted to produce a speaker for the leadership of that house, and that created a crisis.
The adopted recommendations included that urging Inspector General of Police and the Director General Department of the State Service to shut down Edo Assembly and provide adequate security to allay fears of intimidations as alleged by some members-elect. In a situation where the recommendations are not adhered to, the House further resolved to invoke provisions of Section 11, Subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended to take over the State Assembly until the situation normalizes.
One of the factors was that there was proclamation order issued by the governor, but that he did not take the time for the convening, and that makes the entire thing null and void. Motion that the House do adopt the report of the committee will say aye. This against say nay. The ayes have it.
In a motion of urgent public importance on the need to check uprise of cultism in the society, especially in institutions of learning at all levels, by Representative Henry from Imo State, the House urged the federal and state governments and the university authorities to establish anti-court vanguard to contain the menace.
Today, in Nigeria, many communities, many villages, many homes have been wrecked by the menace of cultism. It is very shocking to note that even in our primary and secondary schools today, there are calls that have gone out to recruit children, and all for what? To unleash violence to unleash mayhem and to unleash terror in Nigeria.
Most of them join innocently. They do not know the extent and what it takes to be a court member.
Parents have a huge role to play in addressing it from the grassroots, from nurturing point of view to maturity.
The National Orientation Agency be strengthened to carry out reorientation of our children.
To further checkmate cultism in the society, the House of Representatives urged security agencies to also collaborate with local vigilante groups in the rural communities to share ideas to help to arrest and prosecute offenders. From the National Assembly, Kenneth Anim, NTA News.
Thank you, Kenneth. Down to judiciary. The Presidential Election Petition Court has summoned the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, to produce some documents regarding the conduct of the presidential election on February 23, 2019. The five-man panel of justices, led by Justice Mohammed Garba, gave the order this Wednesday following a subpoena issued and served on the chairman of the commission on 15 July 2019. Dele Atumbi reports.
The court summons issued on the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, was based on its reminder by the counsel to the PDP and its candidate Atiku Abubakar, Chris Uche, SAN, on the subpoena issued on the commission to avail the petitioners certified true copies of some documents used in the conduct of the presidential election. The subpoena was, however, issued and served on the chairman of INEC on July 15, 2019. Counsel to INEC Usman Ustaz, SAN, told the court that he doubted if the INEC boss has been served going by their last discussion on Tuesday. Counsel to President Muhammadu Buhari, Wole Olanipekun, SAN, and Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, counsel to the APC, said the counsel that asked for the summons should have followed up on the request in support of their case. Counsel to the petitioners, Chris Uche, SAN, informed the court of the hardship they went through without getting the required documents and pleaded with the court to intervene. As at this Wednesday, the electoral body has made available over 40,000 documents to the petitioners. In the light of this, the court ordered the electoral umpire to make all the documents contained in the subpoena available to read latest by noon on Thursday. The court also ordered the resident electoral commissioner of Zamfara State to produce certified true copies of Form EC8A used during the presidential election. Justice Garba said counsel and parties were under obligation to comply with the order of the court. This Wednesday marks the 9th day out of 10 days that the petitioners have to call their witnesses as agreed by the counsel in the matter. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
It's a 3-year-old Nigerian Imam Abubakar Abdullahi will be among 4 other nationals drawn from Sudan, Brazil, Iraq and Cyprus to receive the first ever International Religious Freedom Award of the United States government. He is the Imam of Angar village who hid 262 Biram Christians in his mosque and in his house in June last year when herdsmen launched a bloody attack on 10 villages in Barkin-Ladi, Plateau State. It is the belief of the United States government that it amplifies such uplifting stories of men and women who stand in defense of human life, in promotion of religious liberty, and in advancing the cause of peace around the world. In a country such as Nigeria, where religious difference has the potential of turning deadly, Imam Abubakar is a shining symbol of hope for a better future, where Muslims and Christians will see themselves first as human beings, as brothers and sisters created by one God. The award will be conferred on Imam Abubakar at 11 p.m. Nigerian time today. And Northern Region Chairman of Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend Yakubu Pam, has appealed to those fanning the embers of war to sheath their sword and leverage on the nation's diversity to foster more unity and development. Correspondent Timothy Yusuf has that report.
The need for Nigerians to coexist peacefully is again on the front burner, especially with the seeming increase in hate and provocative speeches emanating from some quarters. Northern Region Chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria says Nigeria Nigeria is God's creation, imploring citizens to do only the things that appease the Almighty Creator.
Nigerians at this point must all agree that we must survive, we must love one another, irrespective of our differences in religion, our differences in ethnicity. We must agree to live together. And those who are even leading the drum of war, I want to remind every Nigerian that these are people, the same elite who caused this problem. And if we allow it, they have the money to fly out immediately. We will be the one to be suffering, and we will be the casualties. We will be the one that we will be in IDPs here and there, which will not be good for us.
Speaking on the gains of remaining as a single united country under God, Reverend Pam enjoins citizens to toe the line of dialogue as the only means to dispute resolution.
So we're to live peacefully with one another. Peace should be the subject, peace should be the food, peace should be what will be the friends of this country, so that we can be able to live with one another in a peaceful coexistence that will build a great nation, a great Nigeria.
He cautions that provocative and hate speech can only breed hatred and disunity among the people, stressing that citizens must learn to shun all forms of ethnic and religious bias for the overall good of Nigeria and Nigerians. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International, reaching you live from Abuja. We're going to break now. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
People always think that the grass is greener on the other side. I've got news for you. For many, there is no grass at all. Through the desert and the Mediterranean Sea, all for what? To be detained as a slave or work for next to nothing with your humanity and dignity stripped? Could be worse. You may be slaughtered for the sale of your vital organs. And there are chances you may never arrive at your destination. Yet every day, countless forge ahead with the thoughts that it cannot happen to me. Why leave Greenland for the dry land and watery graves? Stay home and save your life. It is all you've got. Join NAPTIP to kick human trafficking out of Nigeria.
Report suspected cases of human trafficking and violence against persons to these hotlines. NAPTIP, ensuring a human trafficking and violence-free nation.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Thank you for staying with us. Issues relating to the economy, security, and enhanced livelihoods for the nation's majority were discussed as President Muhammadu Buhari granted audience to the Senate President Ahmed Lawan and Speaker of the House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila. State House correspondent Musambo reports that the engagement is in furtherance of the renewed cordiality and impetus for good governance and effective service delivery between the executive and the legislature. We'll bring you details in our subsequent bulletin. And now to business news. Rachel Shaibu has details on that.
Welcome to this segment of the news. The federal government says it plans to move the gross domestic product from the current 15% to 25% between the next 2 and 4 years. Speaking at the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association's 62nd Annual General Meeting in Lagos, Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo disclosed that this will be achieved through various economic policies put together by the government. He said government will intensify efforts on the implementation of the Economic Growth and Recovery Plan. In the meantime, Airline Operators of Nigeria, AON, has called on the federal government to support domestic carriers, saying that foreign airlines had dominated the country's airspace, resulting in about $3 billion capital flight annually. The chairman, AON, Nogie Megasin, made the appeal while soliciting the government's support for Nigerian airlines on international routes. He said this would mean more jobs for Nigerian youths, over 600 unemployed Nigerian pilots, and more contribution to the Nigerian economy and its gross domestic product. Now, let's see how the equities markets fared this Wednesday. That's it on Business News. I am Rachel Shaibu.
Thank you, Rachel. Now, the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission says the federal government is committed to the implementation of the approved 30,000 naira new minimum wage when negotiation arising from the consequential adjustment is completed. This assurance from the Wages Commission is coming from the concern raised by the trade union side of the Joint National Negotiating Council on issues of consequential adjustment in federal public service, which wanted the government to reconvene the meeting of the technical committee to complete negotiation. Both sides have presented their positions.
Already, you can hear it loud and clear out there that government does not wish to implement the national minimum wage. That's not the correct situation. But the door is not shut for officers on the consequential adjustment arising from the new national minimum wage. For officers who earn salaries above 30,000 per month before 18th April 2019 in the Federal Public Service will continue. The outcome of such negotiations will be implemented with effect from the date an agreement is reached.
The government argued that if 66.666 was added across the board to the salary of officers will be, the bill will be too high for the government to bear. Lower than my 30% increase should be effected in the salary of officers from level 1 to 14 and 25% to salary of level 15 to 17.
It will be recalled that the negotiation committee was inaugurated on the 14th of May 2019 to ensure every worker benefits from the date the minimum wage is signed into law. Now, West African countries have been in a constant fight against drug abuse, and with the problem assuming a more serious dimension, the countries are now working towards more proactive strategies. The countries are focusing again on illicit drug trafficking and associated crimes, especially with young people at risk. Anthony Forsen reports.
Despite the enforcement of laws and policies on drug trafficking, production, cultivation and use, the menace of drug use is still on the increase in the sub-region.
For instance, in 2017, Nigeria took the lead in the West African sub-region and on the continent, which called for a comprehensive national survey on drug use and health to determine the quantum and pattern of drug use in the country, including high-risk drug use, poly-drug use, and other risk behaviors, as well as their health consequences. Last year, the prevalence rate of drug abuse in Nigeria was 14.4%, which translates to 14.3 million people.
My country, Nigeria, followed suit 2015 by establishing the Nigeria Epidemiological Network on Drug Use, NENDU. People who get drugs constitute a sizable proportion of high-risk drug users, with pharmaceutical opioids, followed by cocaine, heroin as the commonly injected drugs. When we talk of drug use, of course, cannabis is on the lead.
We are committed to the war in the sub-region, and I want to pledge the support and cooperation of NDLEA towards ensuring that.
Now, launching the West African Drug Report in Abuja, members of the West African nations, in collaboration with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, x-rayed the dangers drug abuse cause nations economically.
While the findings of this report may help to shape policies and interventions regarding drug supply suppression, the data clearly calls for even greater efforts in the area of drug demand reduction, including the establishment of more treatment facilities and capacity building for those who provide counsel and care to people who suffer from drug use disorders.
Their goodwill messages, Liberia and Ghana painted a gloomy picture as youthful segment of their societies are badly threatened.
I'm happy that we are part of this success that we have chalked, but then we will need to do more.
For us, what this means is that it will build the technical capacity in handling, as the previous speaker said, both the demand and the supply side of drugs. drugs. And so we look for...
To this end, the European Union and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime is partnering with member states of the region to come up with a deliberate policy that will help solve the problem. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
And on to sports, the Super Eagles of Nigeria and Carthage Eagles of Tunisia are set to do battle as they face off in the third place playoff at the African Cup of Nations. Daniel Adriye brings us a review of the match.
Like the final, this is a battle between the West and North of Africa. The third place fixture of the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations AFCON takes place today between two Eagles, the Super and the Carthage. Losing semi-finalists, Nigeria's Super Eagles and Tunisia's Carthage Eagles will battle for the third spot in the competition. Both losers from their last games will be hoping to end the campaign on a high. They both qualified as second best in their respective groups. Nigeria looked to be Group B toppers before Madagascar pulled off an upset in a 2-0 win to top the group. At the round of 16 level, they kicked out defending champions Cameroon in a 5-goal thriller before dispatching South Africa by 2-1 at the quarter-final stage. Their semi-final clash with Algeria looked set for extra time until Riyad Mahrez broke the hearts of Nigerians with a last-minute free-kick goal. Tunisia managed 3 draws in Group E to finish second in Group E behind Mali. They beat Ghana in the round of 16 stage and tactically kicked out Madagascar by 3